let's go to Browntown. Welcome back to Lizard of Doom. I am Max. No messing around today. Pop this video a little like, subscribe to this channel, and leave a little comment to help me with the algorithm. Thank you very much. This channel's doing way better than I could have hoped. Let's get into the tutorial. We are only using 3 colours today, the first of them being Rhinox hide. Now this is a lovely dark brown. This is going to be the base for Anakin's dark brown robe, and we're going to be moving up to Doombull brown. This, ignore the pot looks a little bit dark. This is actually kind of an orangey brown. It's the same ones I used on his hair. Using this on the robe too will be a nice way to tie the model all together with similar tones. I will not be highlighting it the same though, I'll be using this, hang on, get out of the way Anakin, Tuskgor fur. This is slightly pinky brown, but I will be fixing that afterwards. You will see in a bit, stay tuned for that. The first thing to do is get our base colour, Rhinox hide, and thin it to a lovely consistency where it goes on smooth, we don't lose any detail. And I was hoping to do 2 thin coats, but I think I ended up doing 3 thin coats. That's okay, I just maybe thinned it a little bit too much. It's better to over thin than to under thin in this scenario, because I can just do an extra coat and that's fine. You can see the first coat went on very patchy, and this was maybe due to over thinning, but also it doesn't really matter. Because I will be doing multiple thin coats, this gives a chance for the pigment to build up all over the model without the thickness of the raw paint blocking in detail in the folds and creases in the fabric. One of the nice things about doing lots of thin coats is that they dry so damn quickly that by the time you've finished the first one, you can start the second one in the start place of the first one, because that will be dry and you can just move towards where you finished last time with the previous layer. Once I had that all done, this is what we're left with, and you can see, yeah, definitely going to take a few more coats. It's very important, especially when you're a beginner, to understand that you need to make your coats kind of opaque for the basing like this. Don't want anything showing through, you don't want any patchiness, and that goes for layers as well, to be honest, you don't want any patchiness. Lovely chocolate brown robes ready for the next step. We are not using any washes or shades because I want this model to be crisp as we're basing this colour palette off the animated version of Anakin. Similar step here with the Doombull brown, we just need to water it down to get a nice layer consistency. I'm going for very thin layers, almost to a glaze consistency but not quite, and building it up on the model. This paint job is a lesson in subtlety, so I'll be using a mixture of the Doombull brown and Rhinox hide. Closer to Rhinox hide than Doombull brown to start with, and then building up layers slowly and in smaller areas until we nearly reach Doombull brown. All of the upper areas of Anakin's robe needs to be hit here. This is the same for any model you're painting with a light source from above. So this Anakin is stood out in the daylight. Yes, he's going to have a lightsaber, and we will get to object source lighting in a future video, but for this one, the whole upper sections of Anakin's arms and shoulders, legs, and the little robes around his legs need to be hit with this. We don't want to make it look like it's disconnected. We want the whole thing to have a slight hue of this lightness. You can see not a lot has changed. There is a slight difference to the tones of the top side of all of the brown here though. And then we mix more Doombull brown in, slowly building that mix to a lighter colour, and then we'll go again with another thin layer. Repeat this stage over and over, using smaller and smaller areas on the top of each of these sections. The thin consistency of the paint means that you are laying down small amounts of pigment that when you layer over and over and over again will start to build up and your eye will start to see them and register them as a lighter spot. This is a lesson in patience as well as subtlety, my young Padawan. You can really see that lighter difference now towards the top edges of all of these areas that we've hit with this Doombull brown Rhinox hide mixture, and the underside is still dark. Now to use this on capes, you need to adjust the angle because obviously most of the folds on this fabric are going that way, like horizontal or diagonal. To use this on capes, obviously quite a lot of the folds come down like that, so you'll need to apply the glazes and thin layers coming down and then not put them in the bottom areas of the folds of the capes, and then just concentrate it into thinner bits on the folds of the capes as you come down, and all of the top of the cape. Now if you want a realistic view of light on folds in real life, Have a look at the back of your mum's fat neck. We're going with straight Doombull brown now. This orangey colour is consistent with some variations of Anakin's robes. I like this version the most. This is why I'm picking this. Other versions are darker, but this is why I'm picking this. It's good to have realistic reference. Even if you're painting a miniature that doesn't have as much reference as Anakin, then find a picture on the internet of a similar material that you want to paint. This goes on only the highest areas of the top of his robes now, creating a lovely orangey effect. And because we've built up to it subtly with the glazing and layering we've done before, it now gives us the impression that most of the robe is this colour and there's just shadow on it. That the material is an orangey brown material and our eyes are just reading the shadows of darker areas. Looking good so far, nice and subtle, and I think it's time to tie it all in a little bit better and bring those colour values up, make everything a little bit brighter so it's not so dark underneath. I especially like the way the shadows fall across his back here though, in between those two straps that will be leather. Now we're going to add more water to our Doombull brown till we've got a glaze consistency, very, very thin. And here is the consistency finger test. Put a bit on your finger, wiggle it about. Yeah, that is nice and thin, and this will do nicely for our miniature. When using glazes, it is very important not to have too much on your brush. You don't want to be overloading the model and causing it to pool. This is about what we're aiming for. I'm putting this all over every bit of the brown. This will change the tone of the model to a more warmer orangey colour. I am insisting again, do not let it pool, or your recesses will become brighter than your shadows, which is not good. And there we go, I've changed the tone. You can see now everything has jumped up a bit in colour and vibrance. You've still got those shadows on his back there, still subtle, but now it's time to be a little less subtle. Tuskgor fur is a very pinky brown. It's almost more pink than brown. This will be going down as a thin layer on the model in the very, very highest points. I will be tracing this over the areas I've done previously with some Doombull brown and just catching the upper sides. You can see where the sun would be shining downwards here, it would catch that little bit on his hip, the edges of these folds, and then the crinkles in the leg fabric as well. This looks a bit drastic, but I assure you we are going to save the day with something we've already done. We're going to repeat a step twice, once before this step and once after this step. There we go, that looks very drastic, not very blended, but very bright. This is the point in this layer. This is the very highest of high highlights on this miniature's cloth. And now we're going to hit it with the Doombull brown glaze again, bringing those pinky tones to a more subtle orange tone. This is the best way to get a consistent colour across a fabric like this. Glazes will help you in many instances if you add them to your toolbox. And here we have it, very subtle orangey brown robes. And don't worry, I did spot that little brown dot just on his bum chin there, and I did fix that afterwards. It took me till editing it to realise that I'd done that. But nothing is permanent in miniatures, you can always fix your mistakes. Thank you to my lovely Patreons. If you want to join them and help support this channel, the link is down below and up there right now. Anakin's face was done a couple of days ago. Here's also the link to that one. Shazam up there now. This is going to be an ongoing series with this guy. I'm going to try and get him out in a week or two. This is a new format for the channel, more specific focused tutorials rather than large meandering projects. I'm still doing my Chaos Nights. We're just going to see how this works for the channel and if you guys like it. So I will see you next time. Remember, it's not a pile of shame, it's a pile of future fun. Bye!